Hey guys, welcome to Brickstars. Today we're going to be looking at the biggest set releases throughout the 1990s. So each year there's a bunch of sets that come out. This video will be focusing in on the biggest ones that were released each year. So a couple things we're going to be looking at from 1990 to 1999, and we're really going to be focusing on the System series, which is how they referred to these sets back in the day. They did have a lot of Technic, Duplo, various kind of buckets of Lego, if you will, but this video is really going to be focusing on the themes that kind of have the minifigures, your castle, your space, your city. So we do see a couple catalogs here that we took from the 90s, and of course here's Basil on his dragon, some space sets. We see a couple Islander minifigures, some neat space stuff, castle, and of course some city stuff on the right here. So the 90s really gave us kind of a mix of everything, and what we really love is that they were more focused on in-house themes. There's not a lot of licensed themes back in the day, and they really focused on developing their own lineups. And everything kind of tied together. You'll see throughout the city lineup, for example, they had different train stations and different vehicles and scenes that all kind of came together. And the other themes as well, they had multiple waves and sets and everything. So we're excited to go through this. We were kind of surprised by which sets were the biggest year over year. So sit back and take a walk through memory lane. And we're going to start off with set 6399, the Airport Shuttle. So this was part of their city lineup. Back then it may have been called Town, but it featured 767 parts, 9 minifigures, and it retailed for $140 US back in the day. What's crazy is it's estimated at about 6,200 today. So what we did is we used Brick Economy website to look at the value of the sets today, and these prices should reflect the sealed mint condition box set. So the used value is obviously a lot lower, but still for a lot of these sets it's fairly high. So in this particular case it's about 6,200. And this was kind of a monorail set that they introduced. Again, it came out in 1990, and it was the biggest set that came out that year. So let's look at some details.
As you can see here, it features an elevated platform with some stairs, a beautiful base plate with trees and kind of little parking area or like a roundabout. And as you can see in the background, the track is a double layered or elevated track with a ground layer as well. So if you build this, presumably it'll take up a good amount of floor space, and it has a lot of play features and of course the little sticker that shows that it is in fact electric. So this set you purchase and you get a fully working train that actually has the motor or engine in it that actually takes it around the track. Below the train you see a little burger stand and some kind of little details. They're making burgers out of the little brick pieces, which is quite interesting, or little circular plate pieces, or
Yeah, little round tiles. What we also think is cool is Lego developed a lot of branding back in the day. So here they have kind of a Transit T logo, and you can see that on the shuttle as well. And of course, this station here kind of mimics that same shape. So pretty cool to see. This is very reminiscent to me when flying through Europe. If you stop in Frankfurt, they've got kind of an airport shuttle that goes between two of their terminals, and so that's kind of looks like this. When we look at the back of the box, they give us some alternative builds. Again, that's something that's very 90s. We don't see that as much anymore or at all, but they definitely went out of their way to show you kind of what's possible with this set, and it's always cool to see that everything that you can do. In this case, obviously, with the track being such a focal point, all the alternative builds do in some way tie in the train. And what's interesting is there was another photo that showed you could rearrange the track as well. So there was multiple layouts that you could have in your city. So definitely a great play set. Lots of cool things you could build with it.
Yeah, this is the instructions, and as you can see here, comparing the actual picture of the set with the instructions themselves, just gives you a really good idea, like an isometric view of the whole set. You see, it's like a double-ended train car or monorail car, so it presumably can go in both directions depending on the layout, and it has these two base plates with both sort of a little roundabout area and a station where you can, presumably there's two stations is really what it's showing. You have the elevated station and a lower station, and this monorail connects the two of them.
True. And here we have a look at the minifigures that are included in the set. So we do get a healthy amount of minifigures. And we can see they all have kind of unique torsos, different prints on them, very colorful. It always makes me laugh seeing these early sets from the 90s because they all have that simple smiley face. But there's something charming about these minifigures. So here we have the pilot, very classy gentleman, and again, a good assortment of minifigures there. And we wanted to take a look at the instruction manual just to get a feel for the build. A lot of us are familiar with builds nowadays that are very detailed, very display oriented, and obviously the designers nowadays have access to much more inventory in terms of the different pieces they can use. It's always cool for us to see what Lego built back in the day with a relatively simple assortment of parts. So you kind of get a feel for the building techniques they used back then and how everything comes together. But they did still have some details, like you have some benches here with the street lights, some flowers, the trees. So definitely a step up from sets from the 70s and 80s. And what we've done here is we just took a quick look at what other sets were released that year that deserve an honorable mention. So City definitely had the bigger sets, it seems like. There's another airport here, a fire station, but we did also see a relatively big castle set that year and a space set. So unrealistic to expect these sets to be close to the 900 or 1,000 piece mark. But they were pretty large in size, so we wanted to make sure they got a little mention here.
Up next, 1991. This year we get set 6542, the launch and load Seaport. As you can see here, that there is a good amount of parts. There's 1,000 parts, and it is a big looking set. You clearly get a large container ship, you get a pilot boat, you get a truck, and it seems a forklift or loader of some kind. You get a lot of containers, and what is quite interesting that we're going to show later is that the ship and the boat are fully built out of bricks. So they didn't have the floating base plate or base part, the hull, if you will. Instead, you built this thing fully out of bricks, but it's a beautiful set, as you can see here, with a variety of minifigures, workers, the pilot, and a beautiful dock as well. So you can really pretend that the boats are floating in water and the trucks are pulling up on this dock and loading it up.
What I love about this set is the different containers that we get. So this one looks to have some big engine piece. This one has some containers of sorts, and this one I think had a little tractor. And I didn't get a detailed look of the instructions, but I'd be curious to see how this string mechanism works. It looks like there's something that you can turn here and it'll somehow go through these pulleys and drop up and down. So pretty cool. They have a bit of kind of engineering to get kids started there. And again, we see the branding. So they've got their international shipping icon there. So really cool to see. And alternative builds. So you get some big pieces here with these base plates and whatever these are, kind of tall crane pieces. But really cool what you could make with this set to kickstart your creativity. So whether it's kind of like a canal crossing or a different boat, or in this case they use the boat parts to actually build a roof. This almost looks like an offshore platform of sorts. So
Yeah, wide variety of things. And if we just go back a few slides, you're going to see here that the value of this set when it was brand new, $90 compared to the over $1,000 in today's estimated value. So it's always nice to know that there's a good return on investment of these old sets. So it's promising for sets that we may have in today's market.
for sure. And so here's another look at those instructions. You can see the how, the way the builds look, very simple compared to today's standards, but still they have the details. So there's a winch there, there's a control. They've got a little flag here, and the containers fit nicely. The ship can actually open up. There's more storage down there. So really cool looking set. Again, very much geared towards play features. So being a kid in the 90s, Lego was definitely the best toy you could have to play with.
Some honorable mentions for 1991. You can see this really awesome powered train. It looks almost like an Amtrak type of train with the color scheme on the side and lots of minifigures. A beautiful set. We love trains, and those are always nice to see. And on the right hand side, there's another port set. So if you do have the two various port sets, you can imagine you could make an entire facility of tractor trailers and containers, and especially it seems that they're modular even, so maybe they would fit on one and the other of the boats.
Yeah, I think if you collected all these sets, you could easily build a pretty big port and have everything tied together. So, yeah, it'd be really cool to see kind of a modernized version of these sets if there's any mocks out there.
Or if they make official sets, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Next up, 1992. This brought us the 6277 Imperial Trading Post. So we had City dominate the first 2 years, and now the Pirates are getting their chance. 608 parts doesn't seem like a lot, but we do get some big base plates here. And again, relative to sets in that day, 600 pieces is a lot. 9 minifigures, a great amount. And what's amazing is it retailed for $85 back in the day. So with inflation, if we adjusted that, it would definitely be a lot higher, but it wouldn't be $2,200. So if you were able to keep this set sealed and boxed up for 30 plus years, you'd see quite a nice return on it. Here's a bit of a close-up look. I always love the box art of these 90s sets. Something about it just looks like it's sunset. We have some workers here carrying treasure or goods. We get a hint of all the accessories that are included: an axe, some swords, and then we have our guards, flag pieces. We'll get into that a bit later. And just beautiful looking set. Look at the back of the box. Again, something we don't see as much. The art that we had here, the alternative builds. Sometimes they're funny and don't make sense, but in this case, they all look pretty good. You could rearrange the trading post to be almost like a fort. And the interior of the box, so the open flap, you can get a preview of some of the special parts that are included and start to get thinking of what you're going to build when you open her up. So here's a look at some of those special parts. We got a printed large flag, a printed sail piece that actually makes a return more recently in the remake of the El Dorado Fortress. A raised base plate. I always love these printed wall pieces. There's different ones for castle. This particular pirate one features some of that exposed brick. And I included the shiny coins here. They're not a very rare part, but very nostalgic and very shiny. So I remember as a kid feeling genuinely rich if I had a lot of these. So great looking set, a lot of rare parts. And what's awesome is it pairs perfectly with this one. So this was the El Dorado Fortress that was released a couple years prior. And then of course there's a remake that we received in 2023. So again, if you had this set and then the Imperial Trading Post, you could make a nice big display piece with pirates.
Beautiful minifigures here. You get the pirates and the sort of
Soldiers, guards.
yeah. And a good amount of accessories with them, be it the hats, all the different types of hats, and the beautiful prints. Also interesting, 1992 brought us, or at least this set brought us no longer just the simple smiley figures, but we now also have sort of the mustache guys and different forms of beards. I'm not sure exactly which year they transitioned this.
It was the early 90s at some point. So
But-
even these figures
Yes.
have kind of the simpler face, and then we get some of these more, like you said, bearded faces and eye patches, and we'll see these faces reused throughout the 90s, whether it's the Western theme or castle themes. But there is some faces like this lieutenants that I think are only featured in a couple sets, or maybe even only this one set. And if you look at the price of these minifigures online now, they're pretty high because of that exclusivity. So his face, this torso, this is why we included larger images here. There's some pretty rare parts. And honorable mentions, so there's a castle set from 1992 here that's pretty big, 588 pieces. It featured these knights with the horse barding and these plumes. Those are pretty valuable nowadays to try and get.
On the other side, we get this beautiful gas station, 470 pieces, but you could see that there's a good size when it comes to this gas station and a car wash in the back. You get what looks like two vehicles. You get the tow truck and the car, and of course the beautiful branding, the Octan Lego brand of gas station. Really love this set.
And 1993, another pirate set. So no surprise, the ship is huge. It comes with 912 parts, 9 minifigures. It retailed for 130 US, which is not cheap even now, but especially back in those days. So I'd imagine a set like this, if it were released today, would probably be north of $300. But again, astronomical return on this set at almost $5,600. A lot of that's due to the rare sales and a couple unique other pieces that could only be found in this set. So close-up look. What I love is we get a monkey in this set. I do love this mold. I think it stood the test of time, and it was always fun playing with these monkeys. They could chase around and hold on to things. And I mentioned the sails, so these were cloth sails. They look great. We do also get the printed flags, parrot piece with the colored wings, a little sailboat or a little rowboat, and again, the minifigures. You have the main captain, Redbeard, Redbeard, and his henchmen. And here are some of those alternative builds. So I like this one here. They're kind of stranded, and there's a shark circling them. It's very cool that you could make kind of a fort out of this. So really encourages creativity. And here it almost seems like maybe the pirates got into a disagreement, and there's two kind of factions of them fighting back and forth, or a little smaller boat that you can make. And I do love this piece here. It kind of goes unseen, but the skull and crossbows printed piece here looks really cool. So again, can't say enough about the box art either. And a look at the instruction manual. So very detailed build, even by today's standards. A lot of bricks. There's a lot of cannons that go in here. So it wasn't like you would get one cannon. They actually filled each one of these with a cannon. I think you get 4 in this set. And then, of course, the way they build the sails, the steering wheel, the compass, and a little feature up front here, which is common for Lego ships. They put kind of a half minifigure on the front. And here's a look at our minifigures. So I do like that the simple minifigures, they add variety by just swapping hat colors or pant colors, and it makes it feel like a completely different fig, even though the torso and the face are the same. We do get a couple different pirates in this one. Lady Pirate makes an appearance, which is always great, and our captain looking sharp. So he's got his, I think they're called epaules, the printed hat, and of course his wooden leg.
The honorable mentions for 1993, we get this really epic looking police station. It comes with several vehicles, a helicopter. Looks like it's on 3 floors or 3 stories. So a really expansive build, especially for the day and age. And on this side, this looks like some kind of spaceship or spacecraft.
Yeah,
Probably the Lego space brand, it seems.
part of the Ice Planet series.
Okay. And a beautiful build, very intricate, like dual cockpits and all kinds of wings and details. So, really a beautiful build as well from this era.
Next up is the City 6597 Sentry Skyway. So, huge airport set, almost 900 parts. It retailed for just over $100 and is about 550.
Didn't really go
nowadays.
up that much, and it's most likely, I just looking at it, probably used parts that weren't really specific to this set. So maybe, other than the base plate, it seems, but for the rest of it, it doesn't seem like it's intricate pieces.
Not intricate pieces, doesn't have a lot of rare pieces, I don't think. The minifigures are nothing crazy, but big set, a lot of play features. So whether you're flying the jet off or you have the helicopter, you've got guys carrying the crates for storage, you've got the octane guy coming to fill the gas, a little waiting lobby there, another smaller helicopter, the lights. Cool looking set. Here's a look at the back of the box, and you can see some of those play features. So yeah, lots to love here. A bit simpler than some of the other sets, but it's a big set.
This looks like something that would be more of a play intended set, like tons of figs, tons of vehicles to play with. If you have brothers or sisters, type of thing, everyone can play with it. It's expansive.
Totally. And here's again some of those alternative models. So you could actually convert this to a spaceship launch pad, kind of like Houston or Florida. Some little boats. So definitely a lot of different things you can do with this one. And here's a look at the minifigures we get and the instructions. Again, a comparison of the build. So starting to get a bit more intricate, but still relying on pretty simple parts.
Some honorable mentions for 1994. We get this sort of marina with multiple boats and even a seaplane, it seems, a crane and some things. So that's a nice build. 700 pieces, actually. That's a substantial amount considering, the era. But nice builds there. Then on the other side here, we get some sort of space set.
It's like a space monorail.
Really
yeah.
cool looking. Almost 600 pieces and just comes with a variety of vehicles and things. So it kind of looks like the one that we looked at earlier, the monorail, except in space form. And then we get Islanders here, just over 400 pieces, but an intricate, is that 2 base plates or 1?
It's 2, one's raised and one's flat base plate.
Beautiful, with like a lot of these printed pieces, their branding, that huge Easter Island head type
Yeah.
rock outcropping. So really nice set.
Next up is the Royal Knights Castle from 1995. So 760 parts, 11 minifigures, retailed for just under $100, and it's about $2,000 today. So looking at this set, it looks epic just off the start. You get a dark looking castle, you get some printed parts here. I really like the building technique that they used with these parts to kind of create those almost like a gargoyle vibe. Just simple parts, but they look great. And what always catches my eye with this set is that they did not cheap out on the shields. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, just off that first picture, and maybe you got some extras as well. So the horse Barding and the king front and center look great. And some alternative builds, so whether you make a tower or some weird looking kind of face thing, always cool to see what's possible. And I like this view of the castle that kind of shows the interior, that you can see. You come in, there's a ramp, there's the kind of where the archers stand, and very dollhouse style almost, which is what was popular back in that day. So you could kind of access it from the back and have the king's throne and some details there. So not as realistic, more play oriented, but cool to see. And we feature some pretty rare parts. So again, here's those wall pieces with some unique printing, horse barding that we love, and this one's obviously branded with their lion, a cloth flag, and a cloth cape that also has their branding. So a look at the minifigures. We get some archers, we get some knights, we get a black knight that was kind of intended to be maybe the leader of the knights, and of course the king with his shiny gold crown and cape. And here he is close up. So great looking king. I always love this face, the hair, the shiny crown, and we do get a ghost as well, the ghost that would glow in the dark. So to this day, this version of the ghost remains my favorite. They've done a couple updates, but I like the original the most.
1995 honorable mentions. We get sort of a Cape Canaveral type of space launch. Beautiful crane that can actually deploy it, it seems, by the side of the space shuttle, even attach it and lift it. So that's nice to get that functionality and beautiful little minifigures with this. And then I always love underwater sets. I find anything underwater so mystical and inspiring, and this just looks like an awesome underwater base. The elevated base plate in itself is just so beautiful, and then you get an array of different kind of underwater submarines and bases and things. So really nice looking set, and definitely a great theme.
And I love the color scheme of the Aquanauts here. So it's the yellow, the trans blue. They have their crystals. You get some sea animals. So yeah, this was a great theme overall.
1996 gets us the Freight and Crane Railway. Beautiful train set, just under 1,000 pieces, 3 minifigures, so not a lot of minifigures considering you get all this, but it was 140 USD and today's value is 610, so it hasn't gone up as much as one would expect for a train set, but regardless, it gets us this kind of very interesting cargo type train with very industrial claw, these kind of cranes above it, and all this looks like concrete mixers on this car. It looks like some other type of concrete type things where they would, or storage. And this truck, again, not a lot of minifigures, but a beautiful set. And as we can see that it's powered, which is always nice. They always included that in these 90s sets, so it gives you a good amount of playability.
What I found cool about this set was that as part of the alternative builds, they built a completely different train. So at first I was like, is this a completely different set that I'm looking at? But amazing that you could kind of remake almost an older style steam engine.
Locomotive, and that actually looks like it could have been the lead or the main build, because it's the beautiful build, and even has the coal tender behind it.
And another look at some of those different carts that we get. So the concrete, the tools, the engine, and just kind of how the set looks. So tons of fun, as we can imagine. What I found interesting about this set is they actually have a play feature, a working scale. So you could kind of put things on there, measure it out, and then, charge the customer however much, or put it on which train it's supposed to go on. So really cool. And I didn't have this set as a kid, but I imagine if I did, this would be hours and hours of fun.
Totally. Honorable mentions for 1996, we have another train set. This one looks like a passenger train with windows and stuff on the side, though they are loading some kind of cargo, so I'm not quite sure, but it's an interesting build. Definitely a more modern style train, kind of curvy on the front. And the other one is a pirate ship. I don't know if this one has a name or not.
It has a name, but I forget it. I want to say it's Redbeard's Schooner, but
okay. 700 pieces, and gets us the nice flags, or the sails that look like so worn and tattered. And what I'm really liking now, in the mid 90s, we've gotten out of that very old school looking red and yellow, blue, white style sets, and now we're having really colors that pop, and I'd say very modern style builds compared to even the 1991 and 2 sets that were very reminiscent of 80s and 70s sets.
Totally, they've kind of come into a new style, and even over a short period of 5 years, really modernized the sets. And this year there was a lot of stuff that came out, so we had to do an honorable mentions part 2. One of our favorite sets, Fort Ligorito, right here, just shy of 700 parts. Beautiful looking sets, tons of these U.S. cavalry soldiers. You have the bandits. Can't say enough good stuff about this set. You do get an Explorians spacecraft, so huge spaceship, 600 parts. It looks great. Lots of minifigures, or a couple minifigures. And then one of our favorites, the Dark Forest Fortress. So we did a video recently on the Dark Forest where we talk more about this set, but it's definitely one of the more legendary sets. And 1997, we get another castle set. So this is the Night Lord's Castle. We recently also did a video on the Fright Knights that we discussed this theme a bit more in detail, but this set featured 600 parts, 8 minifigures, retailed for $80 and is about $740 today. Probably driven by the fact that it includes a lot of cool minifigures, has the horse barding, has the flag, again, a lot of shields. Dragon. You get the dragon, of course, Basil with his cape and sword. So cool looking sets, very spooky looking. And it's nice to see that another castle set took the top spot as the biggest release. And here are our minifigures. So we get a couple unique prints, great looking minifigures. We touched on the fact in our other video that they kind of have consistent colors, and we get a skeleton as well.
Honorable mentions for this year. I actually love both of these sets. The underwater exploration, kind of like a recovery style thing where they're taking and exploring some shipwreck or coral reef. Beautiful ship, and just really great for underwater exploration. And then the pirates one, again, the base plate, the bridge, the little kind of dock area, just a really solid and a colorful build. Like, just looking at both of them, they just pop. They have that beautiful color popping and nice theme.
Something about that 90s simplicity that just, it's simple, but with the box art, the pops of colors, it all comes together. And maybe we're biased and it's nostalgia because we grew up in the 90s, but I think we were definitely blessed with some great sets. And perhaps one of the greatest of the 90s, in 1998, they released 5988. I refer to this one as Pharaoh's Forbidden Ruins. It's, I guess, depending on the region, probably had different names. Just over 700 parts, 10 minifigures, 80 USD, and just under $1,000 today. The 10 minifigures kind of got to me because they include the skeletons as minifigures, and we get, I think, 3 in this set. So I would say it's more like 7 minifigures, but nonetheless, you basically get the whole squad from the adventurers. So Johnny, the pilot, Johnny's helpers, a couple bad guys, and again, the truck, some accessory builds, huge looking, not pyramid, but ruins really. And what I loved about this set that I actually missed when I first looked at the set is it's a face, right? It's the Anubis, so the teeth, the eyes, very kind of, you're entering into the mouth of the Anubis, and who knows what you'll uncover. So here we have, again, a look at the back, sometimes unrealistic. So you see here close-ups, like they've got this really weird vehicle, almost like a surreal piece of art. The flying crocodiles, steampunk-esque. But yeah, I mean, you could do whatever and have fun. And here's something a bit more realistic, maybe another smaller ruins, and they found this sarcophagus. So always loved looking at these alternate models. And a little quick glance at the instructions. So what I liked in this case, they almost included like a comic book style, or kind of different scenes that you can play out if you're making some scenes.
It almost looks like Indiana Jones style, heavily inspired by the movies.
Probably heavily inspired. If we got a theme like this today, it would probably be Indiana Jones. This was, adventures, whether it was Indiana Jones or Jurassic Park, they kind of took elements of those before licensing was a big thing. And here we get a look at that brick built version of the main build, and a look at the minifigures. So we got our good guys kind of spread throughout, the mummy, which could be good or bad, and we have our bad guys that are trying to steal the jewelry and the artifacts. And we definitely wanted to do a closer look at some of these minifigures. So Johnny Thunder, Professor Kilroy, the mummy, Von Baron, beautiful prints, different colors. The mummy especially, like to have this shiny print on the headpiece, the printing on the legs. This was one of my favorite minifigures growing up. And of course, these two are iconic. And then another thing I love about this set is the printed pieces that we get. So no stickers on these pieces. These are all printed, whether it's a big wall piece, the kind of a column across the top, this would be the column that's beam across the top, column there. We get the gray alligator, which is pretty rare. And I always like the scorpion and the magnifying glass pieces, and then the printed sarcophagus piece. So this piece came in a couple different colors, but obviously the printed one looks the most luxurious.
And if anyone watched the video of our train one we did recently, where they had the sort of background that had Lego inspired pieces, I just love looking at these and finding the little like claws, or using the Lego style. So really nice whenever they kind of bring that type of thing into their printed pieces.
Makes it look more realistic for sure. And honorable mentions to great sets. So this one from the Ninja series. Again, look at that box art. I love it. Kind of like diorama. They have fog coming over the edge. They have huge towers, a flying ninja. And on this side, another underwater scene. This time it's more focused in on the yellow and translucent dark green. But very cool looking base, submarine, and these gnarly looking bad guys. And finishing it up in 1999 is the Star Wars series. So this was kind of a surprise to us for a couple reasons. One, just looking at the box art, I wouldn't have guessed it has almost 900 parts. They do list 10 minifigures, but you'll see later on, I wouldn't classify them all truly as minifigures. The set hasn't appreciated as much. I think it has to do with the fact that a lot of the parts are simpler. And this was the day and age when Star Wars kind of first came out. So it was popular, but obviously it's grown tremendously. So we aren't huge Star Wars fans, so it's tough for us to speak on kind of the that aspect of the set. But I do remember seeing this set as a kid in stores and wanting it, just because I thought it had a lot of great play features and racing, and I thought the call them race cars looked great, and they're all different. But we never got this set. And what's interesting is, even though it's a licensed set, which is supposed to mimic part of the movie, they do offer you some alternative builds as well. So I think this is when they're starting to taper off on some of the alternative builds. But it's cool to see the different techniques that they use to build these sets. And here are the minifigures. So we get Anakin Skywalker. Jar Jar Binks was always my favorite looking minifigure. It was rare that they did these molded heads back then. And so it was cool to see. And they consider these droids as part of minifigures. So I, quite frankly, find them a little weird looking. I like R2-D2, but these guys and this I'm not a big fan of. and just a look at the parts, how it looks when it's built. So pretty big pieces. Obviously, these things, these pieces aren't as strong, so I can imagine these sets may be getting worn out after some time, but as a display piece, they'd look pretty cool as well.
Totally. Honorable mentions for 1999. Yet another spaceship, and this one has an even more intricate sort of base plate and launching station. And not only that, it seems that the spaceship can kind of almost be modular and be taken apart as maybe it gets into space. And we are bringing back an asteroid. So maybe this is on the moon itself. Maybe this station, as you can see the background here, either looks like Utah or looks like you're on a different planet.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like they're bringing back a moon rock or something, but if they are out in space, they're not wearing any masks.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, then
so maybe we lose some realism and we're being a little harsh on it. But interesting that they did something different from the previous one.
absolutely. And then here we have a, is that a Johnny Thunder?
Yep,
Oh,
Adventures,
Johnny Thunder Adventures.
Amazon Ruins set. So
Takes them there, takes them to the desert. I really like that they've kind of put the Johnny Thunder in various situations and various locations.
environments. Yep. So great looking set, not as big, but I think this was a pretty quick theme, quick turnaround. So it's tough to get your hands on a lot of these sets nowadays. And just a quick recap of the sets. So again, starting off in 1990 and working our way through. What I found was interesting is there's a good mix here. I doubt it was intentional, but there's some years they had big city sets, pirates, castle, adventures, and I think it's fair that Star Wars gets a nod because that's one of their biggest themes, biggest selling themes. So great assortment of sets, and of course these were the biggest sets, but some years had several big sets like we saw in 1996. Very nostalgic for us to look through these sets, and you can see we touched on it a bit. Even over the course of this decade, they definitely improved the detail. They retained the play features. They improved the quality of the pieces in terms of more detailed prints, more detailed minifigures, and we're really nostalgic. We really love these sets. Like growing up in the 90s, having these sets as play sets and keeping them in our collection now and comparing, the parts with modern day sets. It's cool that, a lot of the castle pieces and shields are considered pretty rare. Obviously the pirate sails. So we think the 90s was a great era for Lego, and
Totally.
I think these sets show that each year they came out with something great and something that kids enjoyed and that collectors like to have.
Totally. No, it's a great assortment.
So thanks guys for watching. We hope you saw some sets you've never seen before. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on these sets, and stay tuned for the next era that we review. So until next time.